What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the 182 News Podcast. This is your host, poppincurbs, and it seems like a good day for a podcast. Let's have one, shall we? We've got some stuff to talk about. The last episode, I believe, was the Enema of the State rankings, where I had stumbled across a Billboard article that had me triggered. And it was to the point of where I'm going to have to do an emergency podcast just to set the record straight and rank the Enema songs front to back in order, of course, subjective, based on my opinion. However, there is no world where Dumpweed is number 8. Dumpweed was number 8 on this list, and I had to chime in on that. We talked about that. I hope you enjoyed that one. I don't always go down that path. I mentioned it on that episode. I don't really like ranking stuff too much or comparing eras and albums and all that stuff too much because I never want to shit on anybody's art. However, I felt the need to do so. We also chatted with my buddy Mike DeMonte. I really enjoyed that conversation. Hope you did as well. I always learn something when I talk to Mike. He knows his shit. He's a punk rock author, I have dubbed him. We talked about Descendants, early Blink, ska, Warped Tour, Blink's influence on the Warped Tour, UFOs, all types of shit. So that was a fun one. I hope you enjoyed that. And looking ahead here, I was thinking last week I really needed to get a new podcast out. Haven't had the time to. And here we are right on the verge of One More Time Deluxe, which will no doubt warrant an emergency pod whenever that comes. And I haven't even chatted about the One More Time tour yet. So since we last spoke, I was able to attend 2 Blink shows, and we have got to hit on these. I want to talk about the set list. I want to talk about some of my thoughts on the evenings. It was just such a rad time. So I'm going to put this podcast together talking about that, and then we might end up chatting sooner than later whenever One More Time Deluxe drops or any more information about that. So this summer, I feel like, is absolutely flying by. I just saw Halloween stuff at a store yesterday, which seems a little bit early in my opinion, but it is what it is. And all summer, I have had this little thing on my calendar that says Blink, and I had 3 of them. Ended up just being 2. We'll hit on that. But one of the things that I just love so much about this band is it's just the best day. And all year, ever since I started going to Blink shows many moons ago, I have that on my calendar. I've got the time off requested at work, and I just know it's going to be the best day. It really is. And that was just reinforced by these shows that I went to. It's honestly just the best thing in the world to me. It's your favorite band playing your favorite songs with your friends and amongst 15, 20,000 people now on these tours that just love this music so much. And there's nothing like it in the world. It's so special. And I feel like ever since I started this podcast, I've just been preaching that since day one. Go see them. Sell all your shit if you have to. And just go see them. You don't know how often this is going to happen. You don't know the next time they're going to be in your city, maybe years. And it's just one of those things that I try not to take for granted. And when you get there and when it happens, it's just the best, man. It's just the best. So I had been looking forward to this one. I really, it's really kind of surprising in my mind for some reason how quick they were back out on this tour, this large of a tour, grand scale of a tour with Tom and, new album and all that stuff. But thinking back, the tour last year was really more in my mind of a reunion tour per se. I mean, One More Time wasn't out yet when I had seen them, so I really hadn't heard any of the new songs live other than Edging. And just looking back in hindsight, to me, that felt like more of a 30-year celebration of the band or a reunion tour in a sense. And this one just, as it was sneaking up on me, I was just getting so hype about hearing these new songs live. I mean, One More Time's been out almost a year at this point. We've all been banging it forever. And I was just getting so stoked and perked up about hearing Anthem 3 and More Than You Know and all these songs that I had been looking forward to hearing live forever. And I will say, I made a conscious effort to really try to avoid spoilers in some capacity. I feel like Blink's been on the road forever. They need a break. But I feel like it took forever for these shows that I was going to finally get here. And of course, I was stoked for my friends seeing them all over. I mean, they were playing SoFi, which blew my mind. Fenway Park. I mean, playing where the fucking Padres play. I mean, it's insane, these shows that they're playing. So, of course, I've seen the stage. I couldn't avoid that. I've seen a million pictures, which had me hype. I had to watch the clips of the new song and the Plus 44 medley and stuff like that, but I really tried hard to not watch all of the other songs live or not pay attention to too many of the clips or reels going around, because I wanted to really take this in as a fresh experience, fresh set, in general, just to see how I felt about it without having too much of it spoiled. So needless to say, when the date finally snuck around, I was stoked. So the first show that I went to was in enemy territory. And I grew up in Indiana Hoosier territory. I went to IU. That was my college I went to. And our arch rival, our nemesis, were the Kentucky Wildcats. And here we are going to drive to a Blink show where the Kentucky Wildcats play. I had never been there. Now, I will say I used to take that rivalry quite serious back in the day, but really in the past 15, 20 years, IU has sucked. And Kentucky's been pretty good most of that time, so it's not much of a rivalry anymore. So I just kind of close my mouth when anything comes up about that, because I don't have any bragging rights. My team sucks. But I had never been to Lexington, Kentucky, which is shocking. It's not too far of a drive. Really, it wasn't that bad, but we get there. I was stoked just to check out the town. I was kind of stoked to see Rupp Arena. That's where they were playing. Just because I've seen it on TV all these years and seen so many players and games there, that it's just like, wow, when you're standing there in the middle of it, it's just kind of surreal looking up at the rafters and seeing the banners and all that shit. So we get there. Lexington was actually a smaller town than I had expected. I think there was only 300,000 people or something that lived there. I was kind of shocked to see that Blink was playing there, to be honest, when the dates were announced. And actually, leading up to that, I was trying to remember if Blink had ever played in Kentucky. I couldn't find any on the set lists that are listed. I looked on YouTube. I couldn't find any. I was shocked that they had never been through Louisville or just anywhere in Kentucky, even if it was as part of a festival or something. I mean, it was just really surprising to me. So I think this was Blink's first show in Kentucky. And so I guess, being my neighbor state, I was honored to be there in some sense from a historical perspective. But anyways, I'm stoked going to the show. And, I had avoided spoilers. I was there with my Blink friend in real life who's been on the podcast multiple times. And we get to the venue, we line up, we're queuing. They had kind of fucked up, which was annoying, because we went through security upstairs and I had a pit ticket on my phone. I did the amateur move where I didn't load the pit ticket from Live Nation to my Apple Wallet. So there was no signal. It took me forever to get it loaded. We finally make it through security, and we're getting ready to scan our ticket in and run to the floor, try to get down on the floor, get a good spot. I don't know too much of what to expect about the pits on these tours. And it doesn't allow us to get in. The ticket thing's like beeping red. And we're like, what the fuck? We bought these online. Like, this wasn't secondhand. It's through Ticketmaster or whatever. And anyways, the pit had a separate entry that was actually like on the lower level of the place. And here we are. We stood in line for 30 minutes. And actually people were yelling at us. Like, employees were yelling at us to line up and telling us to have your tickets ready and all this shit, which obviously I didn't pay too much attention to. But anyways, we basically had to go all the way back out, jump back in line, go back through security, and it was just a big mess. And because of that, I was bummed for a second, thinking, okay, any shot we had at rail or having a good spot is just completely ruined here. And I will also note in here, I fucking hate digital tickets. I didn't have the option this round to get a physical ticket. A lot of times I will pay the extra $5 or $10 to get one mailed to me. I just hate digital tickets. I know you can save them on your phone at this point, but I just like having that physical ticket in hand as a keepsake, and to avoid stupid shit like that whenever you're at a venue. So anyways, we get in, And we get down there to the stage, and really this is the first time that I've seen the close-up perspective of the stage, and you get a feel for it and how far out it is on the floor and how close you are. And right away, I mean, it looked pretty rad. I mean, it's the Blink Smiley. Of course, stage right. I'm a stage right kind of guy. Tom's side, stage left, is typically pretty packed. Dead center is pretty packed. Mark's side, you usually got a pretty decent chance of getting third, fourth row, even if you don't have early entry or, haven't camped out all day or anything like that. So we get in there, walking around the floor, and it's cool. And I can tell that it's a smaller pit, just like last summer, which is cool. I dig that. And then you can actually walk basically all around the stage, which was kind of surprising because I don't remember that being possible on the last tour. I don't think it was. Last year was that diamond. It was kind of out in a similar fashion, about a third of the way out on the floor. But I feel like last year, because they were coming up through the back on a ramp, they had that blocked off. So the fact that you could literally walk all the way around this stage was kind of cool. So, you get there early, you walk around, you can see Tom's guitars right in front of you. That's really cool. Mark's, I think, are hidden underneath the stage. I didn't get a good look at Mark's. But right away, I could tell, like, okay, this pit's going to be comfortable. It's not going to be too sweaty. We're going to be able to get a good spot, which is great. And we were standing there kicking it for a minute. I think doors were at 6, so probably about 6:30, Mark comes out, waves to the early birds, and he's flipping the finger with one hand and waving with the other. Just so funny. It's just a funny little treat if you're there early. I remember back on, I want to say the California tour, Mark would come out early and kind of wave from the side, and it's always just like, I think he knows that people get stoked seeing him early, and it's always just cool to kind of get a glimpse of Mark up close, even if, you're up in the crowd or whatever. There's not too many people there at that point. So I thought that was kind of cool. At that point, the opener, which was Astronoid, they were getting ready to come on at 7. And around that time, I was like, okay, I got to go get a drink. I need a beer. We went to the bar to grab a beer. And man, this was the slowest bar in the history of the world. So slow that I literally missed the entire opener. We saw them play like half a song, tried to go get a beer, and by the time we came back, they were basically done. So my opinion on Astronoid after night 1 was, I don't know. I'm going to have to Google them. Pierce the Veil came on. When I saw Pierce the Veil was announced, I know they're a big band, but they're just not in my lane typically. It's not a band that I've listened to a bunch of or have stumbled across or that the algorithm has thrown my way. So I didn't know too much about them, to be honest. And I kind of liked that. At one point I had went to their Apple Music page and I'd listened to a couple songs and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let this be a surprise. So Pierce the Veil comes on. Those dudes shred. Like, I will say, it was a good show. I don't think it's a ton of stuff that I personally am going to go out of my way to revisit, or there were any songs that was like, gosh, I got to go find that song right now. But as far as putting on a live rock show, I thought they kicked ass. Their second guitarist had some killer guitars. Like, I don't know what color schemes he had or who paints his axes, but he had some gnarly strats, it looked like really bright greens. There was like a bright orange. There was one with like eyeballs on it. So he was awesome. Their bass player I saw was playing an Ernie Ball Music Man, just going absolutely nuts. So I had a great time watching Pierce the Veil. I thought they were really cool, and a lot of the crowd seemed really into it. So I think as an opening choice, they did great. And then it's time for Blink, folks. It's 8:55. The sets are switching, and at 9 o'clock, I hear one of the raddest things in the world, the gong of the Undertaker. Dum. Folks, I'm a bit of a wrestling nerd. I'm kind of back in my wrestling era. I don't think I've gotten too deep into this on the podcast, probably out of embarrassment, but there was a time, a long time ago, where I was super into wrestling. Like, I'm talking Attitude Era, WWF, late 90s. I didn't pay attention to it forever. And now suddenly in the past 2 years, I'm back into it. I love it. It's escapism. I love the PLEs. I listen to wrestling podcasts. Undertaker actually has a new podcast that I listen to all the time. And I think I just love the history I missed out on and the documentaries on Peacock and all that shit. And it's just escapism. It keeps me off my phone and it gives me something to look forward to on a random Saturday when they have a cool match. Yes, it's fake, but they actually get really hurt quite a bit. It's actually not as fake as I remember people trying to say it was in like 99, 2000. That's part of what I've learned during this new deep dive into wrestling nerddom. But anyways, that song that you hear at the beginning is The Undertaker. And the lights go out, and it was a big deal for like 30 years when The Undertaker did that. So to hear Blink coming out to that just got me fucking hype. That got me so hype. And the camera is kind of leading them out as they walk to the stage. I mean, so sick. As they were coming out, I'm getting the goosebumps. Like, here we go. What's this going to be like? I'm pretty sure they're opening with Feeling This. Last tour was Anthem Part 2. Let's see how this goes down. They come out, give a little wave, and they go straight into Feeling This. And I will say, I was stoked last tour. Obviously, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. Like, anytime I get the Anthem Part 2, I'm going to be stoked. But I was kind of stoked that Feeling This was not the opener last tour. I will say, I got a note. It felt right. It felt right to go back to Feeling This as the opener. I was down with it. Right away, I was really curious to see how the stage played out. And I still had, we were probably second or third row back in the pit on Mark's side. I still had a great view. I didn't have to fight for that spot, like relatively, chill pit for the most part. It definitely had filled in after, probably in the middle of Pierce the Veil set. It started filling in and you didn't have a lot of space. But I was curious, I had heard the stage rotated and I had heard that maybe there's a little bit more of a barricade between the stage and the pit. And it did feel that way. Like I did feel like I was a little bit further away from the stage. But as far as the production and stuff, like I thought it was killer. I really did. I'll hit on it a little bit more. On this set, I've got some highlights here, just some of the stuff that really stood out to me. Feeling This as the opener, it felt right. And I was stoked to get Dance With Me. So again, I hadn't seen the new songs live. It was right on the cusp of the new album coming out and the excitement last summer, but we hadn't had the new songs in the set list when I saw them. I know at one point when Dance With Me came out and More Than You Know and Turpentine, they had played those. However, the shows I went to last summer, we didn't get those. So Dance With Me, hearing the crowd with the Olays, like that was a big highlight for me. Bored to Death, man, I love Bored to Death. I'm still so happy they're doing that with Tom. And I don't know if anybody else noticed, but Travis does that drum fill. He has a little bit of flair in some spots. And that was just a little thing that compared to last year, I had noticed that just made the show, I think, just so much better. Like just little tweaks here and there, little changes. I had noticed that Bored to Death drum intro seemed just a little different, which made it cool in the live setting. Edging, I don't know why, I need to go watch it, but I felt both nights that Edging just felt like a little bit harder. I don't think the intro was tweaked too much. I know Tom strikes a chord in the intro, whereas on the album version, it's not like that. So I don't know if it's just that, but to me, it just felt a little less polished, which I like. I want it a little bit harder, a little bit edgier, a little bit grittier. So I thought they absolutely crushed Edging, and I thought for whatever reason, it just sounded a little bit different and just a little bit more rad to me. So that was awesome. More Than You Know. Okay, so More Than You Know is the song that really still is probably my favorite on One More Time. I still think that second verse on that song, and I will never shut the fuck up about this, is the best part on the whole album. Even just if you're talking lyrics alone, that's my favorite part on the whole album. I could not wait to hear this song live. I mean, this song is an absolute banger. And to have them playing that and to hear Travis going off with that bass, and then Mark, man, just I shook all the leaves from the tree and left you with nothing. Like, I love that. Gave me goosebumps. We did get Windy Clear, which was surprising. So obviously there were a couple songs that had been switched in and out. I was trying not to pay too much attention to the set list, but I couldn't help but see some of the clips of the old school stuff going around. So it seemed like early on it was like M&M's or Carousel that would be flip-flopped. And then at one point it was Obvious being flipped with Windy Clear or being flipped with Going Away to College. So I was really curious to hear what I would end up with at my show. So to get Windy Clear deep cut from Enema, That was awesome. I was not expecting that at all. During this, the band did rotate probably, I want to say twice. So I was right in front of Mark, and at one point it did shift to where basically Travis's back was to me. And I wasn't sure how I would feel about that. You know, if you get up close and you get right there in front of the pit, and then the band's looking the other way from you for half the set, you may think, this kind of sucks or whatever. You know, I get it. But I will say, for that particular 3 or 4 song stretch, it was really cool actually to see that perspective of Travis. You know, you don't typically see the back of Travis and what his feet are doing like crazy. So I thought that was actually pretty rad to get that view for part of it. You know, the band was basically, their backs were to me, but it was fine. And I think for folks that are in the arena, like it may not be the coolest for the 20 people on the rail up front who camped out and waited for that spot, but for the other 19,98 people, it's fucking awesome that they rotate and everybody gets their fair shot in front view of the band. So I thought that was really cool. Not Now. Okay. My Blink friend in real life, that's his favorite Blink song. And last tour, he was crushed because they had busted it out, I think the night before our show. And the running joke was that basically that crowd was so dead that Mark said they yanked it from the set list. I think it was Detroit. Somebody ruined Not Now last tour. And my buddy was bummed that we didn't get it, because for the most part, they typically will play that song live. And last night, we got Not Now. And this is one that completely caught me by surprise because I did not see any spoilers on this. Not only did we get Not Now, we got Not Now with an extended bridge section, essentially, and basically that implemented Travis's solo. So to get that right in front of us, essentially a new version of Not Now, Travis rising to the heavens and just fucking crushing a drum solo, I was shocked. It was so fucking awesome. I was so stoked to have Travis's drum solo implemented like in a different part. I know traditionally in the past, a lot of times the Violence intro and Violence in and of itself acted as that. That's when I think in the past I've said, like, if I had to act some songs from the set list, like I'm cool with losing Violence at this point. They've just played it a lot, and that's kind of been like the crazy Travis part a lot. So to have this on Not Now, I thought that was amazing. I could not wait to hear Can't Go Back. So this is the new song. We talked about it before that they've been playing. And I'll tell you, this song, I have not been able to get this song out of my head. I have been humming and singing this song so much that my son is now humming it and singing it, which is kind of a proud dad moment. But I was cracking up. The other day, I was singing this in the car just randomly. And I was saying, please don't bring me back to reality. And out of nowhere, my son was kind of like humming the melody. He was going, 2 days ago, I was in the kitchen trying to figure out dinner. Little man's working on Legos. And I hear him singing, please don't bring me back to reality. Just like, not only is this a rad dad moment, but this is a very catchy song to the point of where a 5-year-old is humming it and singing it and can't get it out of his head. So I cannot wait for this official release to come out. I hope it's a big song for him. But gosh, I didn't know how this song would rank, you know, being a little bit of a slower song. We don't have the official version yet. I didn't really know where this song would kind of rank for me or where I would, you know, be thinking about it a couple weeks post-show. But gosh, I just love this song. The crowd dug it. I did record this one, so I typically am pretty anti be on your phone the whole time at a show. I really am. Even when I go back and look at some of my old shows I've been to, I'll typically only record like 20-second snippet of a couple songs and a handful of photos here and there. However, knowing that I was going to back-to-back nights here, I did make a conscious effort to take a lot of photos. I did record, I think, 2 full songs. This was one of them. I just wanted to have that kind of documented, and I wanted to make sure I had that memory. So I did record all of Can't Go Back, being a new song, being my first time hearing it live. I've got that up on the YouTube channel. Just love this song. And then right after that, I did record the Plus 44 medley along with the There Is. So this is one that when I first saw the set list of the first night, I was just so stoked that any version of this would exist in 2024. So that plus 44 medley, just to hear Mark kind of strumming his bass guitar, and it's almost kind of haunting in just this new version of When Your Heart Stops Beating. I was going nuts. It was awesome. And then Tom, at that point, they had shifted basically to where Tom was right in front of me, and there's red smoke, and it's kind of crazy. I was able to get some cool pictures of this part that I posted on the podcast Instagram page. It was awesome. So, I mean, Boxcar Racer, and then when Travis gets going on that snare during There Is, and plus 44, and a new song, it's just, what the fuck? Like, this is such an awesome set list and an awesome time for Blink. I was honestly just like blown away by this evening. I will say, I've got a confession to make, and I can't say that without thinking of Dave go, I got I had to go pee about this point in the set. And, you know, this might be a good poll question. If you got to pee, what's your pee song? And I will say, no shame, it was I Miss You. I bet 98% of people, that may be the one song people would never, ever, ever miss or hold it for another one. I had to go, and I kind of knew I Miss You was coming up in some capacity. I had already plotted it out in my mind. As soon as it gets going, that's the pee song for me. I got to do what I got to do. So regrettably, but there was no choice. Regrettably, I had to skip I Miss You during that set. May haunt me forever, but damn, it was absolutely necessary. Anthem 3, this was a highlight for me. I mean, to me, this is still one of the best songs on that album. And to hear that live and the bridge, and man, Tom was just killing that. It was really, really rad. Damn It. Can't go wrong with Damn It. I mean, going nuts on that. You've got the confetti. I mean, it really is just like pure bliss. I said that the other day when I posted a picture of the confetti. It is. I mean, to me, it really is just the best thing in the world, synced up with your friends and everybody in the crowd, just listening to this music that just means so much. I will say, going into the night, I wasn't quite sure how I would feel about the One More Time ending the set list. I'd never experienced this. To me, it's Damn It, peace out. We get the Damn It, and then they go into the One More Time, and I will say, I dig it. I thought it was great, and especially being the One More Time tour, knowing what everybody's been through to get to where we are right now, I thought it was a beautiful ending to the set. The band comes out, they do their wave, and then they walk off, and that's the show. I mean, it was just a killer show, front to back. I tried to go live on Instagram a couple times. I don't even know. I haven't even watched that to see how fucked up it was. But obviously in these situations, the bandwidth and the cell phone connection is very limited. So I tried for you guys. Sorry if it was shitty and choppy and laggy. It was not my fault. But overall, I'll tell you, I was blown away by the show. I mean, my buddy and I, when we were leaving that, we were like, man, they absolutely crushed that. I thought the set list was damn near perfect. Squirt gun to the head. If I had to be super, super picky, the only thing that I would switch, I would have loved to get Carousel in some capacity. The first show I go to, they did not play M&M's or Carousel, which I think was the first show of the whole tour. They didn't play either one of them. So I would have picked Carousel or M&M's that night. And then I probably would have swapped like Always for Turpentine. That's the only tweaks I would have made. You know, being the One More Time tour, I really would have loved to hear Turpentine live. They didn't even end up playing it this stretch at all. However, you know, I think it was on the table in some capacity. But, I mean, overall, and that's just being crazy nitpicky, I thought this set was amazing. I really did. It was fucking awesome, front to back. And so that was night one. And my buddy and I, we were chatting about it, and we were like, man, that show was better than last year. We really felt it. And we were trying to figure out why. You know, what are the differences? Because we both felt like immediately, we were like, was this better than last year? And both immediately, yes, 100%. I mean, no doubt about it. And so I was trying to think of like, okay, why? What was different? The stage was a little bit different from the diamond to the smiley, the rotating smiley. I don't think it was that. as far as the layout, as far as where you're standing or hearing the band, it wasn't that. Yeah, it rotated, but that wasn't a game changer too much from my point of view. Was it the production? Maybe. The production was definitely different. Last year was more of like the inflatables and a ton of shit going on in the background, which was cool. This one, it's interesting when you're on the pit or in the pit, I really couldn't see the screens. It's basically a fairly bare bones stage, and then they've got 4 screens around them. And I'm sure if you're sitting back, you're getting all the visuals. Honestly, I don't even know too much about what's going on. It looked like camera work from what I saw. But for the most part, if you're in the pit, you really can't even see those. And I was thinking, maybe I prefer that subconsciously or in some capacity. Maybe it felt a little bit less of a production per se, and it was just the band up there ripping. But I still don't know that would sway it completely, because I liked the inflatables and all the background visuals on the last tour. Like Skink and Rabbit came out. What the fuck? That's awesome. Ultimately, I was trying to hone in on it, and I think it had to be the set list for me. I really do. When you weigh the two, I think last year probably felt more of like a hit set list, again, like a reunion, like a comeback tour, something like that. Whereas this one had a new song. It had the medley. It had, a brand new song, Can't Go Back. And then it had the new songs from the new album. So I don't know. But I think clear as day, this show felt way better than the last one to me. And I'm still kind of trying to pinpoint exactly why. So that was night 1. And one of the things that I have been looking forward to this whole tour is that I've got a back-to-back concert, which is sick. Anytime I can pull that off, you get 2 nights of Blink. It's a rad thing to do. I think I've only done it twice. I feel like I did it 2013 Palladium, the Untitled shows. Still my favorite Blink shows to date. I don't think that'll ever be beat in LA. And then Chicago last year. That might be the only 2, come to think of it. So after Lexington, we drove to Indianapolis. This is one of the more common places that I would catch Blink. However, they were not playing where they typically played. Typically, they would play at the amphitheater. This time, folks, they were playing in my favorite place in the entire world, which is now called Gainbridge Fieldhouse, home of the Indiana Pacers, which is my favorite team. I'm a diehard Pacers fan, grew up a Pacers fan, grew up the biggest Pacers fan in the world, just loved it. Huge part of my childhood. And going to this field house, I just have so many great memories and just tons of trips and being at tons of games, going with my dad, my family. It's just the best. I love this place. I truly feel at home when I'm in that building. So driving up there and being able to see my favorite band in my favorite place on earth, I'm like, man, this is fucking crazy. Obviously, I've been there a million times, but to see your favorite band there is just kind of next level shit. And so we're going in. I met up with my old college roommate, which was just so awesome. My brother-in-law joined us. It was his first Blink show. So, man, just the best times. I really miss just kicking it with my friends. And, you get older and you get 9 to 5s and you get kids and you get busy and you get married and you got so much shit going on. And all of a sudden you look up and it's like, fuck, years have gone by since you've kicked it with your friends who live out of town. And so to be able to just meet up with my old roommate, and you're just reminded of just how much time you guys have all spent together, and you can just laugh and have the best time and get caught up like not a day has passed since you saw each other last. And to me, that's just like the truest sign of friendship, is when you just pick up a conversation with somebody, and it can be years, and you pick it up like it was yesterday. You're not staring at your phones. You're not trying to figure out what to talk about. It's just the best. And we just had the best time. We got there downtown early. We go into the building. To me, I'm surrounded by Pacers stuff and memorabilia. I mean, I'm looking at Reggie Miller's jersey and old wristbands. I mean, Reggie was my fucking hero growing up. I know I might have just lost some of my New York listeners, but it's cool that the rivalry's kind of back at this point. But it's just awesome. And so we get there, once again, down on the floor, trying to find a drink. trying to find a good spot. I will say the pit at this one was significantly more crowded, and they had this one lined off to where you couldn't really expand as far as you wanted to. You couldn't really get along the sides. They had it taped off. People were yelling at you if you were standing in the taped off area, which made it a little bit crowded. So the second night, the pit seemed quite different. However, we still ended up in pretty much the same spot. I'm going to go through the set list here because it wasn't drastically different, but I will actually read through the set list as opposed to earlier I just provided some highlights from Kentucky. Once again, kicking off with Feeling This, Rock Show, Man Overboard, Aliens Exist, Dance With Me. We got Obvious again, so neither night did they rotate Obvious out on the ones I caught them at. Bored to Death, Edging, Up All Night. I still love Up All Night. I will die on that hill. It still just absolutely blows my mind that people don't like that song or it didn't live up to whatever hype you had for the comeback then. More Than You Know, again, just banger. M&M's. Okay, this was the highlight of the night for me. This made the trip worth it. To be able to hear that song live with Tom, nailing the riff, it was just awesome. Just truly is. Cheshire Cat song. Didn't think I'd ever hear one of these songs with Tom again. I did see them play this with Skiba in 2016, which was awesome at the time. But yeah, to be able to hear that with Tom and where we are now, that was just awesome. Stay Together for the Kids. Very, very powerful song live, no matter how many times you hear it. Not Now. Can't Go Back. I Miss You. I did stay for I Miss You this time. My bladder cooperated. Down, When Your Heart Stops Beating, Fuck Face, Anthem Part 3, Always, What's My Age Again, First Date, All the Small Things, Damn It, and One More Time. I mean, reading through that again, that is a killer set list. It really is. So, I mean, both nights were just incredible. It's funny, syncing with my Blink friend in real life again on the drive home. We were just blown away by how good it was. We thought both nights were better than the tour last year for various reasons that we're still trying to pinpoint. We both felt that the Kentucky show was better than the Indy show, which is interesting. We couldn't really pinpoint why. It just kind of felt that way. I think maybe it was a more comfortable pit or just, I don't know, less stress getting to a spot in the pit maybe. But yeah, I think ultimately, like, my takeaway was just like, what a killer show. This tour is rad. I don't know what it is, but like seeing Travis back out rocking a Famous F, like I think Famous is more or less back now. I think it's on Zoomies or whatever skate shop that is where they're selling it now. I was such a big supporter of Travis and Famous back in the day that got me a little bit hype. Seeing Mark out rocking new Octopus gear. Seeing Tom with his guitars. Mark's got two signatures, two new guitars. He had the Chuck E. Cheese bass. It was just awesome. It really, really was. So I think really the only thing, again, that I would just beg for if I were to tweak the set would be getting Turpentine in there in some capacity. I was still hoping for a Carousel or a Going Away to College. I was really hoping they would play Going Away to College. That's my brother-in-law's favorite Blink song. I was really hoping they would bust that out. But at that point in time, I was planning on seeing them again the following weekend in St. Louis. And really, once I got home and got back to work on Monday and everything, I was like, man, I can't believe I'm going back out of town again this weekend. This is kind of crazy. I feel bad for my wife with the kids. But, this is one of those things that I preach all the time. If they are near you, go see them. You don't know when they're going to be back. I haven't done shit all year, I feel like. I've got it on the calendar. Sorry, babe, I'm going to be gone, handful of shows, and I'll make it up to you in some way, in some sense, somehow, some way. But at that point, I was looking forward to St. Louis the following weekend. There were some other friends that I knew were going that I was stoked to meet up with. Hoping for Carousel, I thought was the more likely one at that show. Now, the problem is Tom ended up getting sick. And I tell you, when I look at their website and I was looking through the tour dates, I was thinking, man, they are playing a lot of shows. It would not surprise me if somebody ends up getting sick or they end up having to cancel some shows. I mean, Green Day just started their tour and Billy lost his voice like the second day, I feel like. I mean, this shit just happens when you're on the road. And hell, we drove from Lexington to Indy, which was 3 hours or something. And I was exhausted, like just waking up that next day and driving to the next city and just going to the show, much less being on my A game, performing, singing. I just can't imagine what they're going through, even though they're doing it in probably like the best and most efficient way that they possibly can. Minimal obligations, minimal media, flying private, whatever. It's still like my takeaway was like, man, especially the older we all get, I'm like, they got to be fucking wiped out. Like I am exhausted just trying to keep up with where they are on their website and Instagram. I can't imagine flying all over and the crew. Like, shit, I have so much respect for the crew, especially with how complex that stage setup seemed. Like, they have so much stuff hanging above them, so much weight above them. The stage is lifted up. I mean, shout out to the crew and the merch people and just everything and everybody that goes into putting on this production, because I could not imagine taking down that set, starting at 10:30 and getting it all packed up into 20 semi trucks, driving 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours overnight, checking into a hotel at probably 4, sleeping till maybe 10, and then going to the venue and doing the whole thing. I mean, you probably lose track of where the fuck you are, and it just has to be exhausting. Now, I know, obviously, for the band, that release on stage and the performance and being able to do what you love, I mean, yeah, that's what you do it for. That's probably the best thing in the world. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that they're human and they're playing a shit ton of shows. So that's a long way of saying I was really hoping they would get through the tour. I feel like COVID's coming back around again. Like a ton of people I know have been getting COVID, which sucks. And unfortunately, they had to cancel a couple shows. Tom had lost his voice and ended up getting sick. They had to cancel Kansas City and the St. Louis show that I was planning on going to on that Saturday. I kind of figured it was coming once I saw Tom lost his voice. The only thing that I guess struck me a little odd is I thought maybe it would be rescheduled or they would mention being rescheduled, but it was just a straight cancel, which honestly, I don't blame them. Given the logistics of trying to get everybody back out for a one-off or 2 shows in the Midwest, I mean, it's probably just not feasible, to be honest. So bummer for everybody who was planning on going to those shows. Selfishly, because I just went to 2, it didn't bum me out too much because I know it sucks. Like if that was the only show I was going to on this tour, I would be so fucking bummed. So I feel for you and I feel for the band. I know it's not something that they want to do. It's the biggest bummer ever. But again, that's why it's like, to me, go out of your way to catch them, because you truly don't know what's going to happen, especially at this point in their career or with everybody's health and all that. It's just trying to be realistic, but, yeah, so unfortunately, didn't get Carousel. In the back of my mind, I feel like if they would have played in St. Louis, I think we would have got Carousel, but that's all right. Finally, that tour is over for the most part. I mean, they just played their last show. I think it was in Canada. Looking ahead at what's going to be up next, it's like they've got a little bit of a break. They're going to go over to the UK for a little bit. I think they've got a makeup show in Mexico from when the tour abruptly ended last year. And then hopefully some well-deserved time off. I mean, I feel like the dudes need a break. We have got more Blink than even I expected in the past 2 years. Truly, truly rad times. I mean, it really is. When you think about how we got here and where we're at, it's mind-boggling. So I hope the dudes get a well-deserved break. I don't know what next year is going to bring. I would expect some downtime. I would not expect heavy touring. We're getting ready to get One More Time Deluxe. So I think Mark's book is hopefully coming out next year. I wouldn't be surprised if Tom ends up doing a movie, or I don't know if we'll ever end up getting that Angels Live album or anything like that. But I feel like the dudes finally deserve some time off. Some good old time at home. So we'll have to see. But biggest takeaway, this tour ruled. I hope you got a chance to catch it. It was a great time. I ran into some podcast listeners. I had some stickers made that I had handed out. So shout out to all of you that I had a chance to chat with. It was really cool. I did a giveaway. So at the end, I couldn't help but pick up some of that sperm confetti that flew everywhere. And I did a giveaway the other day on the Instagram page with a sticker and 1 sperm confetti. And the poll question, or the trivia question, was, on the last podcast, I mentioned a random Chicago Bulls player. Who was it? And that answer for the devout listeners was Tony Kukoc. So the first 10 people that DM'd me that, they got a free sticker for the podcast. I appreciate you repping that. If you slap it on somewhere rad. If not, throw it in the trash and tell me it's your favorite thing ever. It's all good. But yeah, I really enjoyed just getting out and meeting folks. I ran into Sam Nork, photographer who's been on the podcast, previous podcast guest. That was awesome. And it really was just such a great time. Now, looking ahead, we've got One More Time Deluxe. We're on the verge of something. So let's see. Week and a half ago, everybody's phones got a text from Blink-182 saying you've got 182 minutes to start listening to some clips. And on YouTube, they had some teasers up. And they had No Fun, All in My Head, Everyone, Everywhere, and Take Me In. There were 4 different songs, 4 little snippets, I don't know, probably 45 to 60 second snippets. And I'd listened to those a bunch, just like I'm sure you all have. I've tried to kind of put them to the side for now because, again, I don't know what it is, but I'm at a point in my life where it's like I'm cool not listening to any leak or any snippet over and over and over. I'm cool waiting until the official release day just to have the same reaction as everybody else at the same time and then be able to talk about it. But the one that stuck out to me, I can't tell if it's the bridge or the verse, but the Everyone Everywhere, Mark comes in, and it's the one where he's like, there's an imposter in my mind. He kind of sounds a tad robotic, but actually I listened to it in my car and it doesn't sound as robotic. So I don't know if that's the YouTube mix on my phone or what, but that one has me fucking hype. I mean, there were some rad little parts in there that I can't wait to hear the whole song. If that is a bridge, what it reminded me of actually is the Turpentine Bridge, where it kind of switches gears completely and Mark comes in with that, sharks smell the blood in the water. It just seemed awesome. And additionally, at one of the more recent shows, they had some sort of like merch truck, it looked like, or just van or U-Haul looking truck. And it had a big screen on the sides and it said, stay tuned. And it started flashing August 19th. And that was playing snippets of a song called One Night Stand, I believe. And I think the important part there is the August 19th. Now, looking at that is what, Monday? Let's see. Pulling up the old calendar. Yeah, the 19th is a Monday. So in my mind, while I hope that's the full-blown release and we get all this right now, because Mark did say recently at a show, he said our new deluxe album is coming out the end of August. In my mind, being a Monday, that seems kind of random. I'm hoping maybe that's when a single comes out and maybe like the pre-orders go up for the vinyl, because I'm stoked to see what this colorway looks like for the cover. It seems like maybe it's going to be a gray or cement gray looking color, of basically the same smiley that we had with like the pink and the blue versions on vinyl and CD. I'll be very curious to see how many presses of that come out. I mean, we're just right back in this cycle of rad shit. We've got new music to look forward to. We've got hopefully new vinyl. I hope they find a way to squeeze it all onto a new cassette. Some rad new merch. I mean, it's just exciting times immediately again in Blinkland. It's really, really cool. So we will see on Monday. We may end up having to have an emergency pod next week, but my guess would be the announcement, a song, maybe pre-orders, and then hopefully shit. I mean, if it's coming out in August, end of August, I mean, hopefully it's either next Thursday or Friday or the following Thursday and Friday, and we'll have some new Blink songs to dive into. I will say, based on, I don't know, probably 5 to 10 listens of these snippets over the past week and a half, it's really mind-boggling to me. It's kind of tripping me out, like how this seems like a perfect culmination of where these dudes have been the past 4 or 5 years. Like I cannot help but just hear like life forms, like hints of life forms. I love what Mike said on the podcast. he talking about new Blink, he said, I feel like life forms crawled so that One More Time could walk. Or maybe he said walked and ran. However, he spilled out the analogy, but it works. I feel like this is just such a perfect combination of basically Tom and where he was going with going back to his solo stuff a little bit. Like some of the riffage and the tones sound like his solo album stuff, but then you combine the production and the sense and just kind of the vibes of life forms, and then you bring in where Mark was going with 9 being a little bit more exploratory and even like Simple Creatures. And gosh, it's just crazy how here we are, this progressive Blink, and it's a perfect snapshot, I feel like, of just where they've been trying to get to artistically on their own the past 4 or 5 years. And now it's finally coming to fruition together. And it's just a rad thing. Like, it's really tripping me out. I even went back because I was like, is this in my head? Is this all in my head? No pun intended. I went back and listened to Life Forms earlier this week, actually. I'm like, am I tripping, or is some of this production similar, or is this truly it? And I really do just think it's Tom took where he was going with Life Forms, and now it's just intertwined with Mark and Travis and Blink, and you can still get some of the humor in there and maybe a couple more F words in there, the Tom we all love, but it's just really a rad combination of where they all are. So I'm just so stoked to hear these new songs. I'll be very curious to hear, hopefully we get some lore on, which ones were maybe left over from One More Time, which ones were brand new, when did they record these. Maybe I'll bother Mark and see if he will maybe come on the podcast and talk about it. This might be worth bothering him, even if I get ignored or it's a no, it's all good. I don't like to bother people, but maybe we can get some track by track input. We'll see. That would be awesome, and then I can just retire. Let's see. So what else do we have here? So it seems like for the deluxe, we had the 4 teasers. We had the teaser on the truck. That's 5. I really, really hope Surely to God Can't Go Back is on it, which would make 6 songs. I know they were working on mixing and mastering that even earlier this month. So there's 6. I had seen that someone had asked Travis at a meet and greet that's 7, or that he said there were 7. So hopefully at minimum 7 songs on the deluxe, and shit, I will take it. I will absolutely take it. I had mentioned some new merch. I did see the website had added some new merch the other day. The one thing that definitely caught my eye were baseball cards. Blink 182 baseball cards. Folks, I will go on the record. Blink baseball cards were my idea. I came up with these so long ago. There's kind of a funny story there. I don't know if you've all heard it, or I've posted pictures of it before, but a long time ago, I feel like this was 2018-ish. No, maybe 19, probably 5 years ago. I'm a big baseball card nerd, big baseball fan, and I always try to find ways to blend shit with Blink and my favorite things together. And so I was bored trying to learn Photoshop, and I was dicking around with making Blink 182 baseball cards, and I did them by the eras with era-specific photos, and I thought they were pretty cool. I had posted on Twitter to Mark asking if he wanted a set at a sound check. He replied yes. And long story short, I gave him a set. I gave Travis a set. I think I gave Skiba some of his. I made some Alkaline Trio ones and like his rookie card of Blink. And then I had got Tom a set as well. They're okay. I was too lazy. I never finished the back. It's just too much work. But anyways, the funny thing there is at the time, I gave them to Mark, and this is before I knew Mark or he knew me or whatever. I think this was even before the podcast. But I remember handing them to him, and I said, check them out or just throw them in the trash. And the joke was, I thought, that he took them from me and he looked at a couple of them and he goes, okay, I'm going to go throw these in the trash, which was funny. Well, lo and behold, I didn't know where they ended up. He could have lied to me for all I cared. It was just the fact that I got to give them to him. But couple years ago, I think it was before the last tour, last summer, I guess he was digging out his tour stuff, and he found them tucked away because we had COVID right after that, and then Mark's cancer. I mean, they didn't tour for years. So he found them tucked away, I think, like on the shit he kept on his bus, and had pinged me about it and said he still had them. So I thought that was cool. So I've been begging for Blink baseball cards forever. I think I even like had tried to talk Mr. T-Shirt into doing them, or had mentioned them to him. And I've even tried to get Hi, My Name is Mark to do these before. I think I tried to get To the Stars to do these before. I've been begging for these fucking baseball cards forever. And then lo and behold, I look up there the other day and I see somebody somewhere finally got the idea to do some Blink baseball cards, and they look sick. So I am definitely ordering some of those. I think the ultimate dream would be to get a set of those signed by the band and slabbed or graded or whatever, and that would be the sickest thing ever. Kind of be like with Ian Grushka and his little Topps card, where it was just so cool to have a Newfound Glory baseball card in some sense, and I've got those slabbed and got all the refractors and all that shit. So anyways, that was cool. I was stoked to see that. So anyways, I've been babbling on for close to an hour here. Didn't know how long this one would be, but we are on the verge of One More Time Deluxe. We will chat on that, I assure you, whenever that drops, or as soon as I can get one out. As far as future stuff goes, I mean, just some random stuff I was thinking about. I'm on the verge of going to a Green Day show. I'm stoked for that. I've never seen Green Day. I've never seen the Smashing Pumpkins, and I think Rancid is opening for them, which is going to be sick. Alkaline Trio today surprised me with 2 new songs. I've been listening to the new song, The Sacrifice. That's a Skiba one. The second one is a Dan song, but God, Skiba's song, The Sacrifice there is amazing. I've been listening to that all day. I've probably listened to it 35, 40 times. That did come out on a 7-inch vinyl, white and black. Already ordered one of those. The Newfound Glory Catalyst Tour kicks off today. Hope you get out and get a chance to support them. It's going to be a gnarly tour, and they actually dropped a cover. I guess Disney's doing some sort of like pop punk Disney song compilation or whatever that they were invited to be a part of. And they recorded a song, a cover, Part of Your World from The Little Mermaid. And it's sick. It is so good. I was texting with one of my buddies earlier about it. I don't typically like covers, to be honest, including my own. However, Newfound Glory does a damn good pop punk cover. I'll give them that. They are the kings of that. There is no doubt about it. And this one is gnarly. Check that one out. And then I'm going to see one of my other favorite bands, Neck Deep, in October. I still cannot stop listening to their new album. If you have not listened to their new self-titled album, put that motherfucker on, listen to tracks 1 through 5, and tell me that is not some damn good 2024 pop punk that's just progressive and it's fresh, but it's still like, you can just tell they were so influenced by Take Off Your Pants and Jacket era Blink and Newfound Glory, and just a killer album. So I cannot wait to go catch them again. I caught them in January when that album kicked off. But man, that is a damn good album. And gosh, they do some killer stuff with like VIP and meet and greet and stuff. I know they're one that they don't like to charge people for meet and greets and VIP stuff typically, but you know, for medium size or smaller bands, this is how they make a lot of their money and make a living being able to do what they love. So I'm always more than happy to support bands like that. Even like to Newfound Glory's extent, you know, they're doing sound check stuff and side stage you can get and shit like that. And I love that. It makes the day a full day experience. To me, like, there's nothing better than like meeting the band, seeing sound check, getting a picture, getting something signed, and then going to a killer show. Like, to me, that is a perfect day. So Neck Deep, if you're interested in going or have any interest at all, they will blow you away live. I guarantee that. But check out their VIP because it's so affordable. I was blown away. I'm so used to like the most expensive shit ever. I mean, literally when my buddy got a drink at one of the Blink shows, he got like a double whiskey or something. It was $37, which is nuts. I was like, dude, we can get a fifth for that. A decent fifth. I don't drink whiskey, but that was his poison for the evening. But yeah, they had a VIP that's like so much stuff, like early entry, signed poster, limited picks, sound check, group picture, Q&A with the band. It was like $45. And then the next tier up, which was like all of that, plus you got individual photos and you can bring your own stuff to get signed, which is amazing. I think every band should do that. I know bands will typically give out a signed poster or a signed promo or something like that, but there is such a market for people that want to bring in their own favorite album or vinyl or CD or previous picture, whatever. They want to bring in their own shit to get signed, and nobody does that. And I was so stoked when they said that was part of the VIP. It's just, Neck Deep does a lot of stuff right. I love supporting those dudes. And if I can just get one of you guys listening to them and being stoked to go to a show, I've done my part, and I'll get off my pedestal right now. But anyways, long way of saying, a lot of shit coming up. It's going to be sick. Fall's almost here. Best time of the year, in my opinion. And we are on the verge of new Blink-182, which is tough to beat. So hope you enjoyed it. I think that's it for today. All right. Enjoyed it. Talk soon.